Hey everybody, I'm Steven Anderson, or you might know me as Web20 Classroom, and I'm going to do a brief overview of this brand new SMARTBoard. Thanks to the folks at Tierney for giving me the opportunity to have this board for a little while and to really dig in and to see what it's all about. So the name of this board from Smart is called the SBID 62755, or my kids have just nicknamed it Awesome. In the past, when I was a classroom teacher, I had a front of classroom display, an interactive front of classroom display. And over the years, I've seen that technology advance and continue to become even more incredible for our littlest learners all the way up to kids in college. And even now, corporations are beginning to put these in meeting rooms. And this board to me really is at the pinnacle of what front of classroom display can do, because it incorporates a lot of different types of technologies into one place. Now you might be wondering, where am I keeping a very large, over 80-inch board in my home? It's actually in my kid's bedroom because that's the only place I have to keep it. But what's really great is the folks at Tierney also sent me a Copernicus mobile motorized stand. And this is something that really, I think, is really great for the classroom because, as we've seen in the past, we've put those boards up in the front of the classroom, and it kind of it can become a hub of activity. But what if you want to change the layout of your classroom? You want to move things around, and having that static board in place doesn't really allow for a lot of changes to be made. And so this board is on wheels. It's very mobile. It's very easy to use. It has some handles makes it very easy to move around. But it's also got a motor on it. So if I'm working with a small group of students, or our littlest learners, I can easily drop that board down so that they can reach all the way up to the top. And if I'm working with a group of basketball players going through plays, I can easily raise that up. My kids really enjoy to move that around. But for the board itself, it was really self-contained. There's really nothing else that you need other than the board and some power, because this board has an integrated Chrome box on it. So when you boot the board up, it has everything you need. In the past, you used to have to connect it to another device, which meant that you kind of had to dedicate a workstation to it. And you can do that with this board. In fact, on the back, which you can't see, there's a laptop stand that I can have on the back and place a dedicated machine to it, or I can hang it off either side of the board and use that. But for me, I've really just been using the integrated board, because the Chromebox really comes complete with everything that I need. It has the smart software already installed. It's already integrated. I don't have to use another computer. In terms of the touch points on the board, that had been a challenge in the past, of being able to have multiple students at the board, and straight out of the box, it has 8 touch points. So, I can have up to 8 students up here, and I have 2 daughters. I have a 12-year-old and an 8-year-old, and they both are very competitive, and so they like to both use the board at the same time, and it easily accommodates both of them. If you want to go up in the number of touch points, you can easily do that if you add an external machine. You can go up to 20 touch points if you use a Windows or a Mac computer, or if you have a Chromebook, you can go up to 10 points. So still, you're able to do a lot more than in the past, than when I even first started teaching nearly 20 years ago. You're able to do much more with that now. One of my favorite pieces of the board itself is just the layout of how easy it is to use. It's a little difficult to see on the board, but I've got easy access to my favorite applications. I've got my recent SMARTBoard files, and I can even install different apps. So I can put my Google Classroom. I've got Zoom on here, so we could easily if we're still in a distance learning situation, or even in the winter, when if there's winter weather and we've gone to a remote learning because kids can't be in the building, I could easily connect this board to my Zoom class, and I could put a computer up just like I've done here, use that as my camera, but have my board be my screen and easily put that through the Zoom. If I use an LMS, I can use my Google Classroom directly on the board. If I'm a Microsoft 365 school, I've got easy access to all my Office apps, and I can easily use those sign-ins, my Google sign-in or my Office 365 sign-in, which most districts are using one of the two or even both, to have complete access to anything that I normally would do on a regular workstation. I can do easily on my board. So not everything has to be done using the interactivity of the board. I can still use this device as a large front of classroom display, but still have access to all of those various tools. And there are even other apps on here, a calculator, geometry, and all these other types of things. Dice, if I just needed some random dice to be able to do some probability lessons, I have those very easy and at hand. You can even side load apps. So it does, since it is running Google, if there are apps in the Play Store, you can side load them onto the device, and there are numerous websites and blogs that tell you how to do that. So if you have Android devices or Chrome devices in your classroom, let's say, and there's a particular app that you want to use, you could easily side load that directly onto the board itself. But if we talk specifically about the Smart software, anything that I do on the board saves to the board, and I can put in external storage and be able to save those things. But the board comes with a tremendous amount of storage, and I can do that. But what's even more cool is anything I do on the board, when I sign in, it saves to the cloud. So if I'm I'm in the heat of the moment teaching a lesson. So I was a science teacher. So if I take a lesson like teaching what is matter to a group of elementary students, I could easily create this lesson on the fly in the middle of class. But then any changes I make are saved, and then I can easily go out to my smart website and be able to go into my account and edit those so I can access them anywhere. Smart has a new, they've changed kind of the name of the what they called SLS for Smart. They changed the name this summer to Lumio, and Lumio is their online place where you can go get your lessons. You can download lessons. So a couple of these are lessons that I pulled from the Lumio website. But what else Lumio allows you to do is to really create a true interactive environment with students, because in the past, front of classroom displays were very passive. I stood up here, students sat out there, they consumed the information, and there wasn't, I might have been able to bring them up one at a time, but now with the proliferation of devices, students can now connect to these different lessons and be able to interact with them on their own devices at their seat. So I can actually share this lesson out to my students. They just go to hellosmart.com, they enter in my code. So if you've used other services like Nearpod or some other things like that where they've connected to that, you can easily do that here. But I can give them this code, and then they have then the lesson at their seat. They don't need an account. They don't need anything to do. They can drop in their name. You have complete control over how those students interact with that lesson. So we call that teacher paced or student paced. So if you want students to be able to stay along with you where you are in the lesson, you can do that. But when you share those lessons out, you actually can create some really cool activities. You have an individual handout activity, you have a collaborative workspace, so you can actually give students different activities that you want them to do independently. Maybe it's a sorting activity, or match or find and replace, or you can create a collaborative workspace where every student can draw and they can put on different ideas and they can work together. Maybe it's in a smaller group. So don't just limit yourself to thinking about, well, not all of my students have devices. I only have enough devices for 5 to 10 kids in my class. Well, you can group them up and we can create some collaborative workspace activities. the being able to share through teacher pacing or student pacing also allows me to embed different types of things. I can embed a web page, I can embed a video, which is really cool. And then let's say we don't get to a particular activity in class. I want them to do it when they get home. I can easily turn this to student paced, put a time on it, and allow the students to complete that activity at home. Again, keeping track of everything as I go through. So there's a couple other things. The board comes with several inputs. So my kids actually have a Chromecast device so they can cast their iPads, but really I don't even need to do that. It has built-in screen share. So with the screen sharing, you simply download a SMARTBoard app, or you can go to a particular website or connect to the same network, scan a QR code, and now you can go in and screencast your device. So if we don't have to be completely in the smart ecosystem, we can be doing other things, using other tools, but use the front of classroom display so that everybody can take part in that learning. So some of the drawbacks, like the board is really heavy. It took 3 people to lift it up. It weighs a little over 200 pounds. It is big, so if you're working in a smaller space, you want to consider the mobility of being able to move it around. But it only really moves with one person. I can easily push and pull it around. But overall, I think what outweighs those drawbacks is really how Smart has really come so far and what they're doing with the technology is. I can remember teaching teachers how to use, Smart Notebook and trying to do really cool interactive lessons, and I can still use a lot of those same tools and knowledge that I have on Smart, but now they've expanded that ecosystem to be able to include a lot of other things. So if you're looking to, you've got some extra monies, or you're looking to retrofit some classrooms, think about this board, this Smart SBID 62755, or what my kids call the most awesome board around. You can consider that as it is self-contained. For relatively, for an upfront cost in the long term, you're going to get a lot of use and a lot of joy out of using this board. Certainly I have with some of the things that I've been able to do this summer for conferences, and even with my kids going through and having them do some practice learning this summer. So I hope you enjoyed this little review of this SMARTBoard. Thanks to the folks at Tierney for having me review this board. Please, if you have any questions, you can reach out to me. I'm on Twitter @Web20Classroom, on Instagram @Web20Classroom, or you can check out my website, web20classroom.org. Thanks, everybody.